Welcome to Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast, where as your host each and every week, I am going to inspire you and empower you to share your message and step into that big vision you see for yourself. I'll be bringing you celebrity interviews, influencer insights, and my personal tips from decades as an on-camera talent, TV host, media expert, and entrepreneur, so you can build a brilliant seven-figure brand. Because when you're inspired, you inspire others. So let's go. If you are a female entrepreneur who struggles with making money, or let me just say keeping money, this Inspired Living episode with Hilary Hendershott is for you. I met Hilary years ago. We were both speaking at an event, and I just was so impressed with how she shared her knowledge. She actually showed her bank accounts, which I love, had integrity behind what she was doing. Wasn't just talking about creating wealth, but really went through what she did to go from $600,000 in debt to running a seven-figure firm and actually having multiple seven figures in assets, something I know we all want. We all go into business for time and money freedom, and yet sometimes we can find ourselves in a place where we don't have either. So in this episode, Hilary talks about the 7 steps to creating wealth. She talks about what a baby elephant has to do with creating wealth. We talk about mindset and so many other things. You know, Hilary has been recognized as top 40 under 40 entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley in 2018, 2019, and 2020. Investopedia named her one of the top 100 most influential advisors in the US. And I love Profit Boss Radio. Her podcast is a must listen to. Really great information on how you can create more wealth in your life. So if you're ready to actually make money doing what you love and not just making more money, but actually keeping it, this Inspired Living episode is for you. Hilary, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It has been way too long since we've talked, girl.
I know. I just realized you had a baby since I last saw you.
I think time is completely warped right now, but yeah. I'm so grateful that we get to have this conversation because it's one that I really love to talk about, women and money and wealth, and you're one of the best. And I'm really, really grateful to have you on the show. Can we just jump right in?
Yeah.
We do this?
So, go for it. You want to see my bank accounts? No.
Yes, please. Can you please show me your bank statements today before we get this party started?
I do that when I speak. You know, I put my bank, my mint.com portal up on the screen. I don't do it on the internet, but if you see me speak live, you've seen my numbers.
I actually remember that from when we talked at an event together. And I was really impressed because it's one thing to say that you make a certain amount or you've acquired so many assets. It's another thing to see it. So thank you. Thank you for being transparent.
Thanks for getting it.
And let's just start with this question. You know, we're both women in business. We're moms. We both have seven-figure businesses. It hasn't always been that way for me, I will say. And I know it hasn't been that way for you. Being at one point, I think it was 600,000 in debt. Did I read
Great
up on
memory.
that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So why is that? Do you find now that you've worked with so many couples and women, especially and entrepreneurs, what's the gap, Hilary? What's the struggle? Why is it so hard for women to invest and generate wealth from themselves? I mean, the statistics are really staggering. When you look at women-owned businesses, the average women-owned business makes less than 50,000. I think it's 2% make seven figures. So what is it? Because we're smart and we're savvy and we're talented.
It's multi-pronged. Okay. So first of all, it's beat into us consciously and subconsciously from the time we're children, right? I would not be shocked at all if half of your listeners have heard, oh, you don't need to worry about money, honey. They heard that either from their dad or their brothers or a male teacher, or maybe their husband, or I don't know, but that's a common thing that women get told. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. The other thing is that money is intertwined with power. Okay. And as women, we want to be sexy and fun and funny and smart, but powerful. Well, I'm not sure about that. Maybe he won't find me attractive if I'm powerful, if I'm making 5 times the money he's making. Right. And so we, again, consciously or unconsciously sort of eschew money. I mean, maybe, Farnoosh Torabi, but she has a podcast, the So Money podcast. She wrote a whole book about it called When She Makes More. right? So it's so rare that we have to now write books to give women permission to make a bunch of money. Also, we as a society really don't understand the power of our beliefs about money. That if I said to you, look, it's critical what you think and believe about money. Your thoughts lead to your actions, which leads to your results. You might think of that as a little woo or a little new agey, but it's not. It's proven out by, hard sciences. Neuropsychologists know this, and yet the sort of knowing hasn't permeated into the psyche. So we're really at
that conditioning is tough to break. I'll tell you, society says, right? Men make more. Men are the head of the household. Women take care of the kids. And even though we've seen such great advances, I would think.
A revolution, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I still think there's that inequity is still there. Like, women, you're supposed to be here and the men are still going out there to make more money. And I will say what I love so much about you and your podcast and just all the women out there that are sharing this message is that it does, everything in our life stems from what we believe, right? What we're conditioned to believe.
It does. And, we have a really broken relationship to money. I always say money is the last frontier of feminism because, we're out there talking about closing the earnings gap. We're talking about having a seat at the boardroom table, but no one's saying, if you own a business, pay yourself a lot of money. Right?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about that for a minute because, and I will say too, I was so guilty when it came to running my businesses, like paying myself last, because I just was like, I just need to reinvest. I need to keep reinvesting in the business. I need to bootstrap it. I need to grow it. And so it wasn't until, gosh, I honestly want to say we just implemented Profit First this year. But even before that, like I was bringing in like maybe $1,000 a month. Like it's ridiculous. We're a 7-figure business and I'm bringing in $1,000 a month. Why do we do that? Because you do think, I don't want to pay myself. I'm just going to put it back into the business. What is wrong with that mentality?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. So I teach I like to talk about these metaphors for starting a business. So the first couple of years, think about building your business like you are getting a 747 up off the runway. So you turn the engines on, you got to get up to speed, right? That the thrusters go, the thing starts to lift. And this is the point where the plane is using the most fuel. It takes a ton of energy for it to get up to that 30,000 foot cruising altitude. And this is why some entrepreneurs get VC funding, angel funding, Small Business Association loans, right? Otherwise, you hear the common knowledge or the common wisdom is use the 401k that you saved up when you were working that corporate job or rack up credit card debt. Or maybe you're lucky enough to have a spouse or partner who supports you through that period of time so you can keep your expenses low enough where you don't have to go in debt to start your business. And no matter how you slice and dice it, you're going to need startup capital. So I tell people, look, think about that startup phase of your business as maybe 1 to 2 years. Now, there's some industries in which it's known that that's actually 3 years, or, I've heard the 5-year number for real estate agents. You have to door knock for 5 years. And then, then your future's made, like if you can make it through those 5 years. But know what that number is. And if you are 10 years in business and you're paying yourself $1,000 a month, like there's something broken about this machine because you have to be extracting those profits from the business in order to pay yourself. Otherwise, if something happens to the business, your personal finances could be completely train wrecked.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, which is, I experienced that personally in 2008. And now, just looking at how I safeguard that, because you're right. If something happens to the business, everything that you have was in the business. So you have nothing to safeguard yourself. So that's really, really juicy information for those of you listening and watching is like, ask yourself, like we start a business for time and money freedom. And yet we usually have neither of those things.
Neither.
For quite some time.
And then I'm working 80-hour weeks. And
what is wrong with this picture? So talk to us about Profit First. So that's something that your company, right, helps businesses implement.
Profit First is a book written by Mike Michalowicz. Most of your listeners have probably either read it or heard of it. And I was doing profits coaching for business owners, and everything that we were doing was aligned with what the teachings in Profit First. And it turns out that Mike and his business partner are offering a certification. So I called them up and I said, hey, we've got this program. We're teaching this stuff. And they said, we're only going to certify 1,000 businesses. Right now, we've only approved 100 businesses. So we're one of fewer than 100 businesses who are certified Profit First. And all that means is that we're committed to eradicating entrepreneurial poverty and that everything we're teaching is aligned with those principles, which fundamentally, Profit First system is like setting up an irrigation system in your garden. So you have the potted plants all around and you create a system that brings water to those plants. And now if you come back in the metaphor, come back to the business, those potted plants are your taxes, your profits, your owner's pay in your personal life. That's all of your lumpy expenses, your next vacation, your next car. If you're saving for a house, you've got money flowing to all of those places. And the miracle of this system is that some of our clients, for the first time, when it's tax time in April or October, they actually have the money. So their CPA emails them and says, it's $50,000. And until now, this has been a massive emergency and people go into debt to the IRS.
Yes.
Yeah. Every year I hear this and I'm like, just set up Profit First. And then
it goes right in every month. A percentage goes right in.
And the feeling of joy and gratitude when the bill comes in and you have the money. You're a transformed human.
It really is. I mean, I got to kind of say I've been there, so I get it. And it is the greatest feeling to be like, sure, let me write that check. Great. I know. Instead of, holy crap, how am I going to write this check? So it's a very different feeling. And I remember, so you've been teaching this for quite some time, because I do remember when we spoke together, you were talking about the different types of accounts that you recommended that people set up. Was this part of the Profit First, or is that something different?
It is. So the chronology of things is I read Profit First. I went broke. I had to figure out how to get out of it. I loved the Profit First system. It just made sense to me. It just changed the way that I thought. So I developed a system for myself that I then started teaching to clients. And then people started asking me, well, what about Profit First? I said, no, this is all Profit First. So then I went back and got certified. So
I got you.
Yeah.
So you were teaching it, but you just weren't really certified. And now you're one of 100 that are.
Exactly.
Amazing. So we kind of just threw out there that at one point you were $600,000 in debt, and now you run a 7-figure business and have multiple 7 figures in assets. So I'm assuming that wasn't like bada bing, bada boom, an overnight change for you.
No,
but what did you do? What was your strategy to get out of that debt to get to where you are right now?
Yeah. So I had a pretty massive overspending problem. And when I figured out what the heck I was actually doing, I was actually buying things and spending on people so that I could convince them I was already successful rather than saving the money to actually become successful.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had got a broken relationship with money when I was a kid, and having nothing to do with my mom, who was a great and responsible and conservative spender. But there were things I wanted that she wouldn't buy me. I wanted brand name stuff. I wanted to give my friends big gifts for their birthdays, and that she wasn't having it. Right. So for me, there was never enough money. And I really had to grapple with the insidious behaviors that I had in my life that were having it be true that there was never enough money. So when you believe there's never enough money, you overspend. Like money burns a hole in your pocket, right? Because pretty soon you got to get rid of your money, or else it's not going to be true that there's never enough money. So I had to, I started doing everything the opposite. I made a very clear decision that I was willing to do anything and forego anything I had to in order to get out of the mess that I was in. Like I had to suffer that just massive, I guess, bottom of the barrel is the phrase, that kind of pain. When I literally couldn't put a tank of gas in my leased BMW and had to walk home from the gas station, I was so mortified. And I had one of those mortgages that went up every month. So the principal on the mortgage actually grew every month because I wasn't making the full payment. It was called a pick-a-pay. They let you pick your payment. Guess which payment I picked, right? So
that's a good strategy. Pick the payment. Yes.
Oh, it was a winning strategy from the beginning. Sure. So I went to the books, I went to the speakers, I went to the experts, and I became an expert in both neuropsychology and behavioral finance. And it was during that time I first heard the term overspender. I had never heard that term before, but I knew as soon as I heard it, I knew I was one.
That sounds familiar. Yes.
Yeah, that's very clear. Yes.
Yes.
And so I went to work unwinding all of those behaviors. There is a tightening of the belt, right? Because my income was the same. And so I went from spending more than my income to, of course, spending less than my income. I had to pay off the debt, negotiate some of it down, and then I had to start saving. I mean, I had to reverse my fortune, literally. And I found that as I became almost spiritual about money, that I could alter my speaking, that I could say different things, ask in different ways, design my calendar differently, like decide, you've heard the phrase, eat that frog.
Yes.
Do the hard things first, right?
Yeah.
But be religious about getting those profit creating actions and conversations completed every day. Even when you're building your business, it doesn't look like that's producing results, except the effects of those conversations compound over time, as you know.
Right.
Well, and so the results and the behavior and the successes really compounded on themselves. And, I would say the whole transformation took somewhere between 7 and 10 years, depending on when you say, okay, you're all right now. Like I remember one day opening up my accounts and looking at the balances and going, wow, like this looks way different than it used to. And then it was the day I opened up my accounts and I said, oh, I can actually stop working if I want to. So
what an amazing feeling that must be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course I got the download along the way that I could put this together in a learnable way, because it's obvious. I don't have to make the case. Everyone on the planet knows that people struggle with money. And I just think that Wall Street egoic language I'm not anti-man at all, but the old boys club, that's a very coveted place to be. And if you're in, you're in, but if you're not, you're not. And
right.
And my message to people is like, you don't need to understand or relate to that language to be a financial success.
So powerful, Hilary. You talk about, or I read somewhere that something with elephant and money. Is there a correlation there? Because we just talked about eating the frog, which made me think about the elephant.
Let's see. I one time had a talk opening. I speak publicly a lot. And there was this story about a zoo trainer, an elephant trainer, who would tie the baby elephants to a tree. And then when the elephant grows up, so then the baby elephant learns that it can only go 3 or 4 feet from the post, right? From the trunk of the tree. And I know it's animal cruelty, but it's probably just a metaphor. I don't know.
Okay. We're just going to go with the story. Yeah.
The story is the elephant grows up, and now all the trainer has to do is tie that rope around the elephant's neck. And the elephant never actually tries to get away from the tree because it's learned its place. Essentially, it's learned where it can't go past. And so obviously the lesson for entrepreneurs is, a lot of you have given up before you've started trying, right? Like, wow, maybe you tried once or twice or 5 times, but try it 100 times, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Things might change dramatically.
Powerful metaphor. Hope that elephant did learn to move. But yes, I think, so many of us, we don't even realize that we have this noose around ourselves, that, that we can't move. We feel like we can't, but it's not really there. The story we tell ourselves or the conditioning that we have really does become that thing that holds us. And at any moment, we can choose. That's why I love neuroscience. And I love the behaviors around things and what causes some people to generate massive wealth while other people continue to struggle. And I know there's so many deeper conversations we can have about that. But you talk about kind of the seven steps. Like, I know you talk a lot about that in the work that you do. Yeah. Can you share just a little bit about those?
You bet. So essentially, around the time I realized, I've clearly transformed this problem. I clearly fixed the hole in my financial bucket. And I said, I've got to figure this out. How can I give this away? And so I looked back and I just looked at exactly what I did and in what order. So first is decide. The first step to wealth is decide. You have to decide that in your financial life, you're going to pursue financial health. And honestly, this is a big step for a lot of people because there are a lot of people resist money, resist wanting money, resist admitting that they want money, right? Mm-hmm. You might have a story, you're a starving artist, whatever that is. Deciding to pursue financial freedom is a big deal. The second step is speak. And so this is the neuropsychology part, the really getting related to what do you think about money? So what do you say to yourself and what do you say to other people? Even to transcribe your sales conversations or looking at your website, for example, I had someone apply to my coaching program last night and I looked at their website and their biographies on their website are all just goofy, not serious, no credentials, nothing about what they do, nothing about why they do it well. And I thought, I can see that you're not making money, right? Like this is just, this is emblematic. It's just a symptom, right?
Right.
It's just,
yeah.
It's one of your conversations about money. So that's step 2, that's speak. Number 3 is plan. So this is the profit first, the giving each dollar in your ecosystem a job. When money comes into your business accounts, it should have responsibilities. It should flow naturally to your operating expenses and profits and short-term savings and long-term savings and taxes and like that. So that's plan. Then of course you have to earn. Everyone knows you have to earn. All business coaches teach you how to earn.
You have to earn. Crazy thought.
I know. So you have where you start. And then of course you have to ask for more. So that's the 5th step to wealth is ask. And that can be—
When you say ask for more, give me more information there.
I mean, if you look around at you, everything you have, every relationship you're in, every article of clothing you own, every customer you have in your business, that's all a function of something you asked for in the past. Now, asking looks a lot of different ways, right? It can look like, will you please do that for me? Or it can look like, will you come work for me in exchange for $100,000 a year salary? Or it can look like, will you marry me? Or it can look like, hey, you neighbor, will you do a nanny share with me? Because I can't afford this nanny, right? It can look like, will you be my coach? It can, like, all of these are requests. I mean, I have the people at my program sometimes just start by asking for a discount on a cup of coffee. You would not believe the resistance I get to asking for a discount on a cup of coffee. It's like, people, you're not going to die.
Right. You will make it through.
Yeah.
But what does that do? That conditions them to what?
It's about your relationship to no. It's about what you think you can and can't ask for. It's about choosing looking good or not being embarrassed or not putting someone on the spot over what you really want. Look, the point is to not get 30 cents off a cup of coffee. I don't care about the 30 cents.
Right.
The point is to be someone who's willing to ask, to be out in the world asking for things. I mean, I didn't even get to, raising your prices or choosing to work with different kinds of clients or whatever that is that you need to do. You've made thousands of requests in your life, and you may not feel like you make a ton of requests, but I promise you, everything you've got comes down to you made a request of someone. And it's learning to ask for more when your life and your business need it, right? Ultimately, you can reverse engineer the business that you want. So that's asking.
I'll tell you, I have to just a little quick sidebar. My mom, she asks for anything. Like, can I get a discount on that? What if I bought these 2? What about this? And I will tell you, I used to be mortified about it, but now it makes me a really good negotiator because I have no problem. You can say no, right? But I'm going to ask. And I'll tell you, more times than not, it actually really serves me. So I just have to say, you got to build that muscle. It's a good one.
You have to build that muscle. And, I have people do this thing I call the no challenge. And I make a promise to them. I said, if you go out and ask in the world, track your requests, get 100 no's, hear no 100 times. First of all, you'll totally change your relationship to the word no. Second of all, you'll change your life because you'll get so many yeses that you never thought you would get,
Yeah.
So the last
no
steps,
challenge. Okay.
The no challenge. I invite anyone. You don't need a coach to do it. Just get no 100 times and then call Keri.
And that conditions you to ask. Yes. Call me, leave a message, like DM me, let me know. Because I think as women, we don't ask enough things. We don't ask for help. We don't ask for resources, right? I mean, I don't know one guy who wouldn't be like, hey, I need some help over here. Or do you have a resource for this? But we just don't ask. And then we feel stuck, and overwhelmed. But we have more resources than we even know. And like you said, how many yeses do you get when you start asking? I love that so much. The no challenge, it is on right now. Let's do it. All right.
All right.
2 more.
Invest. Of course, you have to invest your money so that it compounds. and grows. So you extract profits from your business in the form of personal income, and then you put a portion of that over to your investment accounts and then grow it over time, and then protect. Of course, you have to protect. And the protect step is really twofold. One is more technical than the other. So one is like insurance, life insurance, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, stuff like that. And then number two is can I swear on this podcast?
Sure.
Don't do dumb with your money.
Keeping it simple here, people. Keeping it simple.
So don't invest in your cousin's, brother's, roommate's restaurant. Like, just don't do it. Or do it with an amount of money that you can afford to burn, Don't give the guy on the stage at the event you went to who jumps up and down, $100,000 of your money, right? Like just don't do dumb stuff.
Do the research, please. Do the research. Yes. Yeah. Don't do dumb with your money. That is inspired living right there. That is it. But you know what? It's funny because you get wrapped up into scenarios, or like you said, and I so appreciate your transparency I always felt like I had to spend a certain amount or show up with the best gift so people knew I was successful instead of saving that money and actually being successful. I just find that really super powerful because, especially living in California, I think there's a lot of people who want to look the look, right? But it's different. And that's, I think, too, Hilary, when it comes to social media and all the things that we compare ourselves against, like there's a lot of people that put on a great show that might have 1 million followers, right? But are broke. So I think it's really important to look at yourself and your attitude and your thoughts around money and then what you do with it. And I know that we are not giving financial advice on this show right now. We are not doing it. But I am curious, when you say invest, what and how do you direct your clients to do that? Is it traditional investing, like, mutual funds and stock market? Is it real estate? Is it just diversify?
Yeah.
I know that's a big question.
Thanks for the tee up. And let me just reiterate, don't take any action based on what I'm about to say. So if you're listening, I don't know you, I don't know your timeline, your risk profile. I don't work for you. So don't go invest in something because I said anything today. Okay. I am a professional investment manager. So I'm a financial advisor. I've been investing people's money for 2 decades. Okay. So when my clients come to me, they're coming to me for a done for you solution. And so I do that for them. And so that's the first point. The second point
is, really quickly, before we jump off that. So who is an ideal client for you?
Wow. Nobody ever asks me that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My firm so far is by women, for women. So 65% of my clients are women. Of course, many women are married to men or want to be married to men. So it's that we don't not want to work with men. So we like to work with people that we like to work with. And we like to work with people who have money to invest. So I have a program for people starting with $25,000 to invest. We go up to about, I think our wealthiest client has about $13 million.
Wow.
So yeah,
it's a big gap there, but that's great. That's kind of what I was curious. Like, what's the average kind of maybe amount that someone is ready to invest when they start working with your firm? So anywhere between 25,000.
I would say our average client is 800 to $1 million.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's because that one program that's for people with 25,000 to 500,000, that I consider to be, that's my give back. Right. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when I calculate that number for my firm, I don't put those numbers into that calculation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So back to investing. So
let's talk about investing.
Yes.
So in the entrepreneur community, there's a lot of talking about investing, right? There's a lot of throwing numbers out there. There's a lot of getting people excited. So you use the same kind of language to get someone excited about a new business as you would about an investment opportunity. And we're conditioned to get really excited about business opportunities. We're entrepreneurs. We see possibilities everywhere. We're literally magic makers.
Yes.
Right?
We see the sparkle.
Yeah. We see the sparkle. We see the possibilities.
Yes.
And when it comes to investments, I've spent many years interacting very closely with investment professionals and people who do due diligence on investments. And fundamentally, when it comes to investment pitches like that, I don't see the sparkle. So at this point, we have 100 years of data about how to invest profitably in the stock market. We can do it really easily, really low cost. And the problem with this is entrepreneurs don't get excited about it because it's easily attainable. And so we want to put our elbow grease in and produce more. And yet I promise you, the smartest people on the planet have been hard at work on the investing question for years. because
Right.
the possible profits in the stock market are limitless. If you knew what company or industry was going to go up, you could just leverage your investment and you would own an island in 30 days, right?
Right.
I mean, really. So
that was Tesla back in 2020.
So if you knew what was going to happen, then obviously you would be a billionaire or even a trillionaire. And so you have, like I said, you have to imagine the smartest math minds in the world have been hard at work on that question for a long time. So however much you know about investing, it's not as much as them. And the general consensus at this point, all of the evidence-based literature says, basically, in a nutshell, buy index funds and just don't sell them. Now, it gets a lot more complicated than that. Which index funds do you buy? How do you layer them in? How do you sell them to produce income? Like, I'm not trying to minimize the complexity of investing. You could get a PhD in it. My husband has one. But at this point, so many well-meaning people have put so much intellectual capital into making these solutions easy to buy and easy to interact with, that in my opinion, when it comes to producing truly passive income, and a lot of entrepreneurs talk about passive income and what they describe actually isn't passive income. But if you really mark off some of your funds, like earmark them for your financial freedom and set them aside and invest them the way that we do, that's truly passive income. You're not touching it. You're not doing anything, right?
Yeah.
And those returns over time compound significantly. I mean, literally compound returns are exponential. So I have lots of clients who are highly compensated Silicon Valley executives who earn more in their investment portfolios every year than they do at their jobs. Right. So
I think that's where we would all like to be, right? Let my investments making more as my business continues to grow. And so I know that the work that your firm does, it's, ran by women for women, but still loves to work with men. And a lot of couples, like we're in a place now that I'm married, that Michael and I are talking about, how do we create wealth together instead of like you're in a silo doing your thing, I'm over here doing my thing. Like, how do we pull it in together and really build lasting legacy for whatever that is that we want? So I know we're like, let's talk to Hilary. So coming soon. So if someone is interested in learning more, I know you offer so many different ways to work with you. What would be the next step for them?
Thanks. So first, you can check out my podcast if you're on your podcast player at the
It's
gym
great,
right
by
now.
the way. Yeah.
I host Profit Boss Radio. We talk all things money. Sometimes it's relationship to money, but sometimes it's, do I need life insurance? I mean, these are questions that need to be answered, right?
Yeah.
You can find everything I do on the interwebs at hilaryhendershott.com. Hilary has one L, Hendershott has two T's. And fundamentally, there's two ways to work with us, either the done for you wealth management and financial planning, or this profits coaching for business owners. That's it. Pretty simple.
All right. Amazing. Well, you have given so much amazing insight and knowledge today. Thank you so much. And I just have to say on a personal note, how beautiful it is to see your little girl healthy and just thriving right now. For those that don't know, Hilary's daughter, Harlan, had leukemia for 2.5 years, and she is now 5, and she is healthy and beautiful. But I can only imagine, dealing with something like that and not having I don't want to say like the comfort of your investments, but I would just say that probably was a time that was challenging as you're looking to grow your business and you want to be there for her. Was that challenging for you, or did you feel like you had everything set up?
That was a really insightful question, Keri. Looking back at that time, I think if I didn't have employees yet, if I hadn't had the courage to hire people, I think I would have just folded.
Yeah.
I mean, I
can imagine. Literally, I'm so flooded right now. There just wasn't enough emotional chutzpah in me. It was because it took too much. It was extremely painful. We got extremely good medical care for her. So thanks to the universe for that. And then I just, to reiterate, I couldn't have survived without the women who work for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just goes back to what we were talking about with asking.
Yeah.
Asking for help and believing that you are worthy of team, that you can afford the team. I think that's a conversation or something I hear so much, Hilary, is I can't afford team. And I'm always saying to my clients, you cannot afford not to have team. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say, once you go team, you'll never go back.
That's right. That is, you'll wonder how in the world
what was I thinking?
Did I do this? What was I thinking before? So Hilary, You're so beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on everything that you've created and continue to create in your life. And thank you for supporting so many women around this topic. It is one that continually needs to be discussed, and women need to be generating more wealth. So again, check out Hilary Hendershott. We'll have everything here in the notes. So don't you worry. You don't have to worry about spelling it right. We got you. We got you in the notes. And Hilary, I can't wait till we get to maybe see each other and hang out, hopefully sometime here in the near future.
Thanks.
Looks like I'll have a trip I need to go on here soon. So come visit you.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've just heard another uplifting episode of Inspired Living with Keri Murphy, the podcast. I hope you loved it. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And if you'd like to know more about Inspired Living or to get your hands on many of our awesome free resources, such as the Be Studio Ready Guide, simply visit us at inspiredliving.tv/podcast. Remember, your vision is your destiny, and we're here to help you bring it to life. Join me again next week for another extraordinary episode.